What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. It is a very nice Friday afternoon here. The work week is done, the weather is nice, and we're going to be working on the old 7.3 again today. Sitting there looking pretty. I'm pretty tired right now. It was a long work week, but it's supposed to be raining all weekend this weekend, so I'm not going to be able to work over Saturday and Sunday. So tonight is the night that I'm going to try to get this project done. I think I should be able to. So today's video, we are going to be installing this little thing, which is right here. You guys might be able to guess. Another part from Riff Raff. This is their fuel pressure sensor adapter to hook up a fuel pressure sensor to the stock fuel bowls on one of these Super Duty 7.3 Powerstrokes. Now, if you guys have been around the channel for a while, you'll know that this is one of my go-to things that I always try to put on my trucks. Having a fuel pressure sensor is incredibly valuable, not only just to make sure your truck's running healthy, but if something's going wrong, it allows you to help you to at least diagnose whether it is or is not a fuel pressure issue. I don't know how many people have reached out to me asking me about why their truck's not running really well, or maybe why it's losing power, it's not towing as well, and I'll ask them if they have a fuel pressure sensor, and they don't, and they have no idea what it is. Having a fuel pressure sensor is good. Know that the truck is getting good, healthy fuel pressure, so you're not going to damage your injectors or fuel system. And two, if there's other issues going on, it can at least help you diagnose to either go that direction or eliminate that as one of your problems. So I always recommend putting a fuel pressure sensor in your truck, especially if you're going to be working on it or modding it, or working it, using it for work or towing or modding the truck. Get a fuel pressure sensor. It is well worth it. Now, I know Riff Raff has sponsored parts in the past. They did not sponsor this. This is something I bought with my own money. I think since that last sponsored video, I've already put in 2 other orders with Riff Raff out of my own pocket. They are my go-to company. I will link the product down here below. It doesn't help me at all, but they're a good local American company, and I'd say they're the best supplier for 7.3 parts out there. So I will link it down below, and the other stuff that I'm going to show in this video I will also link down below. So in order to hook up a fuel pressure sensor to these trucks, there are 2 ports on the back of the fuel bowl. The OBS trucks will be a little bit different. I don't know exactly how those are set up, and I know they are different. So this is going to be more specifically for the 7.3 Super Duty crowd. But on these trucks there are two ports. I believe the upper port near the lid of the fuel bowl is the pre-filter fuel pressure, and the pressure port down below on the bottom side of the fuel bowl is the post-filter pressure. I'm probably going to try to be putting my filter post-filter, so that way I know if my filter for some reason gets super clogged up, I'm going to be seeing a dropping pressure there instead of seeing the fuel pressure coming in. Give me a better idea of what fuel pressure is hitting my injectors. So let me go pop the hood of the truck, or open up the hood of the truck, grab my little step stool, and we're going to hop in there and get this party started. Alrighty, so here we are under the hood of the truck. Obviously, I already took the engine cover off. I don't think you guys need explaining on how to do that. But this is the fuel bowl that I'm talking about here, and we are going to start off by draining it. There is a drain on the back side. See if you guys can see it. It's a little yellow handle right here. You're going to rotate that straight backwards that way. And that will allow it to start draining. I'll show you down below where the hose is that it comes out of. There you go. You can see now that it's facing straight backwards and it is draining. I'm going to go see if I'm even hitting my drip pan. I don't think I am. I'll be right back. Well, I maybe caught about 10 drops of the entire fuel bowl in that drip pan. I had it a little too far to the side. So if you're putting a catcher underneath your truck where it's going to drain, it is right about there, maybe a foot away from the passenger side tire. Over here in the wheel well is where it actually comes out of. You can see, hopefully, right in there where it's dripping. I'll put an arrow on it, but right in there in front of the passenger side manifold is where the tube comes out. You could put a water bottle or plastic bottle from there, or a tube down, but that's where it drips down from. So now that I dripped all of that fuel onto my driveway, we'll go back up into the engine compartment and I'll show you guys where those ports are. All right, so now that the fuel bowl is drained, the fuel pressure ports are like I showed in the picture. There is one right here, I believe is where it is. And then there's one down there to the left of the handle. Let's see, right here. I know it's kind of dark in there, but it's right there next to the fuel line. So that lower one, I think, is the one I'm going to try to tap into. It's going to be a little bit more of a pain than it would be to just do that one, but that's what I'm going to shoot for. I believe it is an Allen socket. Once I figure out which one it is and get it out, I will show you guys it. Okay guys, got the port out. It was too tight in there to try to film it while I was getting it out, but you can see it is a 3/16 Allen head, which is what I used, and it is an O-ring port, ORB, O-ring Boss port, so it doesn't have to be crazy tight. The O-ring does the sealing itself, and this thing's only at 50 to 70 psi pressure max. 70, you would have to have some modifications to the fuel system. Mostly, I think the stock fuel system runs around 55 psi, so this doesn't have to be crazy tight. It's just a little tight to get in there and film it for you guys. So that is what we took out, and this is what we're going to be putting back in its place. You can see the sensor mounts into the top there, and then we have another O-ring Boss port there at the bottom, and this is a swivel one, so you can orient it however you want. Mine's probably going to be straight up and down. You guys can kind of see now why I think I am going, why I decided to go with the vertical instead of having it sticking straight out into the engine bay that way. It'll be pointed up this way. It should work fine, but time will tell. We will find out. Alrighty guys, we got things mostly buttoned up out here in the engine bay. I didn't film any of it. It was kind of tedious and it was a tight space, so ended up not filming it. But you can see, got the sensor down there. I ended up having to tilt it a little bit that way because that valve, as you can see, is very close. So tilted it a little bit to the side, not a big deal, and got it all routed up. Now, don't give me a hard time about the wires. I thought I had some nice wire loom here, and I don't. So this is somewhat of a temporary setup for the time being. I'll go back and wire loom this once I figure out where it was or get some new wire loom. But for now, this will do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll route it underneath through there so it's not going straight up. I don't know yet. Now, however, I get to show you guys one of the reasons that I use the Edge CTS on how easy it is to set up a new sensor to it once you got it all hooked up on this end. So we got a little bit of wiring over there and a cable to pass through to the inside of the cab. Let me show you guys that. So over here at the firewall, where I always choose to route my wires through is where my clutch cylinder would be. But from the inside of the cab, we have this dongle here, and you can see right here I have the fuel pressure sensor plugged in, and then I have one extra sensor for down the road. All you have to do on this end is literally twist these little knobs, plug it in, and lock it back into place. Very, very simple out here. And then inside the cab, it is just as simple. Let me show you that. Here inside the cab, we have the other end of the cable here, and it has one single plug right on this end. And over there, we have our OBD2 port that routes up to here, which is on the same wiring harness. This wiring harness goes from OBD2 over here, then up to the Edge CTS up on the dash. So that is what I'm going to plug into. I'm going to clean up the wiring a little bit to make it a little bit neater. At some point, I need to get rid of this. This was an old EGT probe that they had installed, and I'm going to be hooking up my own down the road. But let me hook this up, and then we will set it up on the monitor. Alrighty guys, don't mind the wardrobe change. It is a different day. It is like 90 something degrees out right now, and I'm cooking here in the cab. I don't quite remember where I left off on the video. I had to take care of some stuff, and so we're doing this on a different day. I think we wrapped up everything underneath the hood, and so now it's inside setting up the display or the monitor so we can actually see our fuel pressure. I'm not going to start the truck, so hopefully you guys can hear me, but the gauge should turn on. Maybe not. All right, maybe I'm going to start the truck. There we go. All right, let me roll up the window so you guys can hear me a little bit better. Sorry for the noise. Alrighty, so I already have it set up here where we have our fuel pressure. You can see mine is sitting at 65 PSI right now. But essentially on the CTS3, to change the gauges that you have, you're going to double tap. And it is going to go to this screen here. You can go through and set up or choose from all the different sensors and monitoring systems on the truck. I already have mine set for fuel PSI because I had this same monitor and sensor on the Dodge and I was using it to monitor fuel pressure. So yours probably won't be set up quite like this. You may see an EAS A or B option on there, but essentially what you should be able to do is, we're gonna have to go to the main menu here, so back to the gauges. And then swipe up from the bottom, and we're going to go to this tab here, which is EAS settings. And you can see we have a universal sensor. It should pick up on one of the sensors that you have. And so now you can see we have universal sensor input B, which is the one I'm not using. And then we have this one, which I already renamed. Well, we're gonna go into that, and now you can see you can set up all the different names and descriptions of it. And then you can do the scaling of it, which I have it on a custom scaling here. You can go through all the different presets. I went through custom scaling. I don't even remember setting this, but if you're curious, mine is 0.5 to 4.5 voltage, and we're going from 0 to 100 PSI. So if you guys are kind of trying to copy my setup, that would be where I'm at. So that is how you set it. Figure out all the parameters and whatnot that you want for it. And then, like I said, when you want to choose it, you double click on whatever gauge spot you want to put it on, and it is good to go. So you guys can see that mine's sitting at 65 PSI, which is, if you remember, higher than what I said the stock PSI should be on one of these trucks. Now, this truck has 200,000 miles on it, and it's had 2 owners before me. The guy I bought it from said the original owner had quite a list of things that he's done to this truck, and based on the fuel pressure, I would be willing to bet that he put an upgraded fuel return spring or fuel pressure regulator spring in the fuel bowl housing. It's a pretty common upgrade. It basically causes more or provides more spring pressure, so it takes more pressure to open up the relief valve, and means your pressure in the fuel system itself is higher. So 65 PSI was higher than I was expecting, but I'm actually happy with that. That is a very, very healthy pressure. I've gotten on it pretty hard, and I've seen it drop down to 58, 59 PSI, which means I would have been dropping down to probably around 50 something PSI, low 50s. So I'm happy with that. If yours isn't showing 65 PSI and it's in the mid to high 50s, you probably have the stock spring, and it's not really anything to worry about. Unless you're putting bigger injectors in or pushing the truck pretty hard and you see it dropping into the 40s. Once it's dropping into the 40s, that's where I would probably recommend doing something with the fuel system, even something as simple as the upgraded spring, which is really cheap, to bump that fuel pressure up a little bit so you're not starving your injectors. That is basically the whole install of putting a fuel pressure sensor on one of these specific trucks. Like I said, I believe the OBS trucks are a little bit different. Their fuel bowl is a different fuel bowl, but if you do a little bit of Googling, I'm pretty sure they have a fuel pressure test valve that you can swap out and put something, an adapter like this on. I'm not 100% sure, but I know people out there do it, so I know it's possible. I've just never owned an OBS, so I can't say for certain which way to do it. Again, all the stuff that I've used here in the video, I will put down in the description down below if you guys are interested in it. So as far as the Edge CTS goes, for those of you that are just here for the video, I'm going to do a bit of talking now. So if you don't want to listen to me talk, you can just close down the video and leave. I won't mind. But for those of you that are interested, the reason I choose the Edge CTS monitor, there's a few different systems out there. There's the Edge, there's the Bank system, and there are obviously analog gauges. Analog gauges, I think, look cool. They're very old school looking, but you got to wire in every single gauge. You got to tie into your illumination system. You can go with something like glow shift gauges and get them for pretty darn cheap. However long they'll last, I don't know, but it's definitely an option out there. If you're on a budget and you want to be able to monitor systems on your truck, those are definitely an option to consider. You could go something like Autometer or IS-Pro gauges, and they are not cheap by any means. I would say to get a set of 3 or 4 IS-Pro gauges or Autometer gauges, you're probably looking around the same price point as you are to pick up one of these Edge CTS monitors. Now, the reason I go with the Edge CTS monitor is you guys can see when I scroll through that list, there are so many different systems you can monitor on these trucks. You're not just set to the 3 or 4 different gauges that you choose. Basically, every single sensor on one of these trucks or whatever truck you have, you can monitor through with these systems. Not only that, you can set up alerts on them for high, low pressures, high temperatures, low temperatures. You can use the system to pull and read any codes that the truck is sending, whether they're visible codes or not, whether you're popping a check engine light or not. This thing is reading the computer of the truck, so you can go through and read any codes that you're having. You can go through and clear any codes you're having. Let's see. You can data log on these. I think you guys get the point. These systems are not cheap. I believe with the display itself and the sensor kit or sensor bundle, the competition sensor bundle, I think you're looking around $800. But for what these things are capable of, I think it is well worth the price, especially if you're considering what it would cost to install 3 or 4 or more different IS-Pro or high quality gauges on. You're right in the same ballpark price wise. So that's my preference. I'm not telling you guys what you need to put on your truck, but that is why in every single one of my trucks you've seen me run one of these Edge CTSs. I started on the Edge CTS 2, now I'm on the Edge CTS 3. I'm sure it's a matter of time before they come out with a 4. For me, the Edge CTS 3 is really solid setup. Also, they don't pay me to say any of this. I have bought every single one of my Edge monitors and sensor bundles out of my own pocket. This is an unbiased opinion. This is what I choose to run and what I choose to spend my money on. So if you guys are interested in it, I will post what I got down below. All the research I've done is buying the competition sensor bundle is the cheaper route to go if you're going to go with at least 2 additional sensors. If you're just going to go with 1, you can buy the sensor and it'll hook straight up and you're good to go. But if you're going to buy at least 2 additional sensors, the competition bundle is the more cost-effective way to do so. So I will link the monitor in the description. I will link the competition sensor in the description, and then I will send a link to Riff Raff for the fuel pressure adapter that you'd use on any one of these trucks. If you're running a different truck out there, I guarantee somebody sells a adapter or something so you can hook up fuel pressure. I know this video is getting very long-winded here at the end, but to me, fuel pressure on a diesel truck is one of the most vital things that you can monitor. Whether it's an old school diesel like this or a brand new diesel, which is even more critical to have a good fuel pressure, you don't want to be starving your injectors for fuel. And if you're having loss of power issues, this can rule that out just like that. You already know what's happening. So I always recommend installing a fuel pressure gauge if you own a diesel truck, whether it's something super fancy like this or a simple analog gauge. I would recommend running one. So with that, this video is plenty long, I am sure. If you guys made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you guys watching. Do me a huge favor and hit the like button down below. That is the best way that you guys can support the channel. The more you guys like the videos, the more you guys comment on the videos, the more YouTube shares it with other people of similar interests. And the more the channel grows, the more content that I can put out for you guys. As you guys can see, the weather is absolutely beautiful, which means hopefully a lot more truck projects to come. I am trying to be a little cost efficient here on putting money into the truck and saving up to build a shop space, because as soon as I get a shop space, it changes the whole dynamic of the channel and allows me to do even more for you guys. So walking a line here of trying to use my money wisely. By no means do I make a lot of money off this channel, so trying to use my money wisely. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one.